I'd like to talk to you about an area of the spine called Atlas C1. So this video is for people who are already chiropractic patients, but have heard, what is this C1 thing? Why is it such a big deal? Why do you spend so much time and education on this one particular area? And so I'd like to share that with you because it's really important, and it can have a major impact on health. So Atlas C1 is the neurological area right at the very, very top of your spine. So this would be brain up here, spinal cord coming down in through here, and Atlas C1 is this bone right here, right at the base of your skull. And it can be contacted on a real human being right behind the ear here, and it would be visualized on x-ray right in the back of the mouth, so right back there. Atlas C1 is important because of the attachments of something called dentate ligaments that attach the spinal cord to the Atlas C1 vertebra. The spinal cord is protected from forces inside of the spinal canal. It's tethered at the bottom, but it's attached here quite significantly at the top. And this is actually a protective mechanism. This prevents when we bring our head forward from that tension pulling on the back part of the brain stem, and pulling it down through the hole in our skull, the foramen magnum. So that protective mechanism is there. It's good that it's there. We want it to be there. But what that also means, because this is so tethered, is that if we have then any turning or twisting at this top neurological level, we're going to end up with torque and turn and twist on the spinal cord itself. So what that means is both research and clinical experience of upper cervical chiropractors have told us that that has huge effect in the body. So what we're looking at neurologically is an area of the spinal cord that is going to be affected by that, which includes nerve information that goes up and down, so to the body and back to the brain. So we've seen functional MRI that shows that this affects fluid that flows through the brain and nourishes your brain cells. It can affect energy and hormone levels. It can affect down into the rest of the spine, creating tension that causes muscles to pull more on one side than the other, which causes eventually your hips to draw up and turn. And this is where we see that even though you're standing, one hip is higher than the other, and when you're laying on your back, one leg is pulling shorter than the other because of that tension that then is seen in the muscles because the nerves are irritated. An analogy that I like to use for this area is to think of it like the main breaker switch of your body. So if we think of our nerve system a lot like the electrical system of our home, we have our breaker box in the garage, and it protects our house from fire. If we overload a circuit, it's going to blow a fuse. And all of those wires go out to every room of our house. So say we're in the bathroom and we've plugged in our hair dryer, we've plugged in our curling iron, and then we go and we're going to get crazy, and we also want a flat iron. So we plug that into and blow a fuse. We've blown a fuse because we've overloaded the circuit. Well, that can happen in our body too. We overload circuits in a number of ways with stress. So physical stress, emotional stress, chemical stress, all of those three things coming into our body can overload our body's circuits. And that's what chiropractors call a subluxation or nerve distress. So that's in any neurological area of the spine. Any vertebra can experience that at the nerve tissue level. But when we look at Atlas C1, what we're seeing is that because this area has such effect up and down, this would be like as if you blew the main breaker switch. So your whole house was under so much extra energy input required, that boom, the whole thing is off. It's a protective mechanism. You're going to have to unplug a few things and take care of that problem before you're going to be able to use your electricity again. So in the body, the Atlas C1 is very much the same way. It's like blowing the main breaker fuse. So we're not just going to see trouble in that particular area, but we're going to see issue both with the neurological feedback in the brain and down into the rest of the body. A really easy example to understand about this is that oftentimes we have people who come in that are feeling things, experiencing pain in their low back. And because we always start with Atlas C1, if that's an issue, it's going to be primary. When we relieve that neurological tension, that stress at Atlas C1, what that does is allows the muscles to relax, allows the torquing of the hips and the tension then that the person is feeling way down at the other end of their spine to release. And then the person can finally have some resolution. And these sometimes are people who have been under excellent chiropractic care in other offices, but perhaps did not have the Atlas C1 focus. Instead, the focus was at the area where the body hurt, instead of taking a step back and figuring out where the problem actually originated. This is not just for pain issues. My own experience on how I became a chiropractor is that my son had an Atlas C1 subluxation that was creating ear infection issues, and once that was resolved for him, he was ear infection free, and he's a well-functioning 17-year-old now. So Atlas C1 is a big deal. If you haven't been checked for it, I suggest that you do. It can be life and health changing.